It's Always Sunny in becomes the longest-running live-action series in American TV history as it debuts its 15th season and remains one of the most popular shows on TV and streaming services as well to date. There are so many things that make it great and deserving of its long-standing success, but I will save talking about those things for another video. First and foremost, I think it's important to talk about something that helped give the show its initial success, being its near-flawless introduction of the main cast in the pilot episode, and the addition of another fan-favorite main character and father figure to the gang in the first episode of the second season of the show, Frank. Season 1 had the difficult task of introducing all the necessary parts of any show or story: the episode's setting, plot, along with its conflict and resolution, perspective, structure, and any sort of themes or morals to be present in the episode had to be introduced alongside the characters. It did all of these things perfectly. We immediately understand the setting by being thrust into Patty's pub in the opening scene, where we find Charlie, Mac, and Dennis. The relationship between these three particular characters is immediately understood as both friendly, yet argumentative, as we hear them yammering over the mere $184.67 they made that night, and the fact that they have a mortgage to pay that's overdue. No exposition is needed, and thus no time is wasted in giving one. The audience immediately understands that these three pals own and operate a bar together, and also understand that the bar might be a source of tension at times between the three. Amidst the arguing, Dee rushes into the bar and shuts the gang down by simply butting into the conversation and frantically notifying the group about a new love interest that she is bringing into the bar, and asks them essentially to not mess things up for her. Her quickness to assume the other three will cause calamity establishes another element to the group dynamic, being that Dee is often subject to problems caused by the other three, or the butt of their mishaps. Again, no time is wasted in making the fact that Dennis and Dee are related by the way that he addresses her in the episode, and the fact that the other three don't see themselves as being problem causers as a group is evident in their questioning of the need for Dee to come into the bar, asking them to be cool. Shortly after this, Dee's love interest, Terrell, one of many to come throughout the series, enters the bar, and the gang is alarmed and immediately put at unease over none other than his race. With this, we have our episode hook, something essential to every story, but particularly important to a pilot. The hook for a pilot helps to determine if a series gets greenlit, and this hook is perfect for that, because it opens up so many story avenues. To summarize the rest of the plot, the gang tries simultaneously to have Terrell act to get more people into the bar, only to find out that he's gay, and that he has successfully turned their bar into the most successful gay bar in Philadelphia overnight, which the gang is divided over. Mac and Dee want things back to normal. Mac because of religion, and Dee because she doesn't like the attention Dennis gets at the bar from the gay patrons. And Dennis and Charlie wanted to continue in its new glory because of the money they're making and the attention they get. Simultaneous to this, Mac and Charlie set out to make black friends to prove they aren't racist. Mac trying to prove it to himself, and Charlie trying to prove it to a waitress he desperately wants to date, but who has no interest in him at all. And there we have it. Within the first few minutes of the episode, we're roped into a complex story about the gang's acceptance of another race, and we have determined some of the principal morals of each character. Dee caring only about her career and love life over anything else, Dennis caring about money and attention, Mac putting the Bible and his faith first in his decision-making, and Charlie placing the attainment of one woman's attention over all other pursuits in his life. With all of this, the audience has a firm grasp of the group dynamic, setting, plot of the episode, some basic morals and values of characters, and some possible themes to be present in future episodes. All the series pilot check marks are hit, and they're hit hard. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia does one thing particularly well in this pilot. It wastes no time. There is no fluff to character or setting introduction, no exposition to explaining a character's morals, desires, fears, or follies, and nothing included in the episode to detract the audience's attention from the primary plots and subplots so carefully interweaved into a beautiful first episode of the show. Along with this, the film style is fairly basic in comparison to any other sitcom, and thus helps to establish a point of view that the audience can become accustomed to in future episodes. This helps to make future episode plots graspable to the audience, allowing them to follow along with whatever each episode is really about. This takes care of the main cast of Season 1. But another major character is introduced in the first episode of the second season of the show. The fan favorite and father figure to the gang, Frank. His introduction is particularly impressive, memorable, and well received by the audience for how many tactics of character introduction are simultaneously employed. Introducing a character can be done many ways. They can be talked about as an exposition or a background story. They can be shown performing a typical action. They can be shown on the cusp of change. They can introduce themselves, or they can be given some attribute that makes them stand out. In the case of Frank, he is shown appearing out of nowhere in front of the car Dennis is driving after the gang discusses the need to get away from the bar in an effort to avoid him in the opening scene of the show, before his planned arrival at the bar. Immediately after the introduction, we hear Frank exclaim that Dee and Dennis's mother is dead, only seconds later to retract his statement, saying that he only said what he said to soften the announcement that he's getting divorced. In any case, the act of showing up at a bar could be considered typical action, but is made boisterous and explosive by Frank, and the excitement and chaos of this opening scene is only made stronger by the fact that Frank has a very unique appearance in his relationship to his supposed children, Dee and Dennis, who we find out in a later episode aren't really his kids. Along with this, in the next scene, we find out that Frank is undergoing a huge change in his life, being his divorce. So, all of the possible ways to introduce a character are simultaneously employed to introduce Frank to the show, aside from the possibility of him introducing himself, which would require the show to be shot in a first-person perspective from his point of view. This allows the audience to get well acquainted with a new lead character without too much hassle to try to wiggle him into the show after first season has already aired. All of these elements help to make the pilot episode for the series and the first episode of Season 2, essentially the green light for the series' continuation up to this point, a massive success. Undoubtedly, this is the effect of having such a dedicated crew acting often as both the main cast and the writers and directors of the episodes they star in. This is particularly true of Mac and Dennis, who created and helped develop the show respectively, and whom spend months out of each year developing the show. They have a strong connection to its success, and thus devote massive amounts of effort to all aspects of the show, which is evidenced in the fact that, as has been the theme throughout all aspects they introduced in the pilot, no time is wasted. They make sure to have every story they try to tell in every episode of the show be a wild and exhilarating ride for the entirety of the episode, not including anything unnecessary or that they don't find to be exactly what they want for the episode into it. This is where It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia truly shines, in its delivery. It's fast, fun, and full of forethought, and that's what makes the first episode of the show and its character introductions just so memorable. Thanks for watching the video. Please remember to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment anything you wish to say about the video, past videos, or recommendations for future videos. It helps out a lot.